In the autumn of 1893, a county jail in the foothills of northern Tennessee sat quiet under a cold October sky. The town of Maren Hollow had been founded 41 years earlier, named for a surveyor no one in living memory could trace. The jail itself looked ordinary: 2 stories, red brick, a single entrance, a bell rung by a rope at the front desk. Nothing about it suggested anything was wrong. Nothing about it suggested what was buried directly underneath it. But a night guard named Elias Crowne, 61 years old, 3 weeks from retirement, believed something was wrong. He could feel it in the floor. For 19 years he had walked the same corridors. He knew which boards creaked. He knew which bricks held moisture. And in the back storage room, behind a rack of rusted shackles, there was a sound that had no name, a low thrum, almost a breath, like the building had a second stomach. And one night, after the last inmate had been moved to the east wing for a court hearing, Elias followed the sound. He pulled back an iron grate he had never been asked to clean. Beneath it was a staircase, stone, hand-cut, not poured, not made of county brick. And at the base of that staircase, cut flush into the ground, was a door, a second door, heavy iron, no handle on the outside, a keyhole that had been filled in with lead. No blueprint listed it, no maintenance log mentioned it, no sheriff he ever worked under could explain it. He told 2 people, a deputy who laughed and a clerk who said there was nothing in the record. The clerk was right. There was nothing in the record. That was the part that should have ended the story. It didn't, because Elias did something most guards never do. He sat down at the kitchen table after his shift, lit a lamp, and he drew what he had seen, from memory, by hand, with exact measurements, every detail he had carried for years. He did it because he knew something the county didn't. He knew he was the last one who remembered. To understand why that drawing mattered, you have to understand what Maren Hollow was supposed to be. Officially, the county was settled in 1852 by a wave of German homesteaders. The town charter listed 91 founding families. The first courthouse burned in 1867. The replacement courthouse burned in 1879. Both fires, local newspapers reported, started in the basement. And both basements, the county clerk's office has confirmed on record, were rebuilt without basements. After the second fire, the new courthouse was raised on a poured slab. No descent, no cellar. The slab was supposed to be a fresh start, a clean floor for a town that had lost too much to flame. But the jail was different. The jail was older. The jail had been built directly on top of the original foundation of the 1852 structure. In the architectural survey filed in the State Archive in 1889, the only one that exists, describes the jail in meticulous detail, except for one strange note at the very end. Inspected. No anomalies. Storage room verified. No second exit listed. No subterranean access noted. Which is the official way of saying there is nothing down there. Elias Crowne believed otherwise. He had been hired in 1874 as a night porter at 19 years old. His job was to walk the corridors, check the locks, light the lanterns, and listen for trouble. For 19 years he did exactly that, and for 19 years he heard every single night around 2 in the morning a deep pulse from below the storage room. Not pipes, not rats, not wind in a chimney. It had a rhythm, almost like a heartbeat. He wrote it down in a small leather journal he kept at home, a journal that exists today only because his great-granddaughter refused to throw it away. Every entry says the same thing: 2 in the morning, storage room, thrum. Consistent. He never missed a night. He never once wrote an explanation, because he didn't have one. Until 1891, when a young inmate named Harlan Beck was transferred from Davidson County for a forgery trial. Harlan was quiet, pale, 22. He worked in the laundry. And one night, near the end of his sentence, Harlan asked Elias for a lantern and a piece of chalk. He said he had seen something. Elias almost refused, but something in the boy's voice made him nod. Harlan Beck drew a map on the floor of the storage room. Freehand, no ruler, no hesitation. He drew a corridor, a turn to the left, a long chamber, and then a second corridor branching east. He drew it in 12 minutes, and then he asked Elias one question. He asked if Elias had ever heard of a town called Hollow's Mark. Elias said no. Harlan said he had. He said his grandfather had worked for the railroad when the rail bed was cut in 1858, and the workers had broken into a passage that wasn't supposed to exist. The foreman sealed it, paid the men in cash to forget. 3 of the men died within the year, influenza mostly, but one of them had written something down first. A name, Hollow's Mark, and a date, 1812. Which meant, if Harlan was telling the truth, that whatever was under the jail was not made for the 1852 settlers, the 1879 rebuild, or even the 1893 night guard. It was older than the county, older than the state, older than the survey lines that supposedly cut through the wilderness 100 years before. Elias kept the map. He kept it in his journal. He never showed it to anyone. Not the sheriff, not the county clerk, not even his wife, because by then he had noticed something quieter and more frightening than the thrum itself. The records were disappearing, slowly, almost politely. A maintenance request filed in 1884 about excess moisture in the storage room was removed from the index. A letter from the regional architect to the county judge in 1886 asking whether the foundation should be inspected was missing 2 pages. A schematic of the original jail, hand-drawn by the builder himself and donated to the Historical Society, was on file until 1889. After that, only a photocopy. The original had been withdrawn for preservation. Preservation, Elias wrote in his journal, is a beautiful word for burial. Harlan Beck was released in spring of 1892. He moved west. He sent 2 letters to Elias, both of which survive. The first letter said he had found another reference to Hollow's Mark, a land deed filed in 1809 for a parcel that was never surveyed. The second letter said he had found the name in a list of towns that had been administratively dissolved by the territorial government in 1803. 3 towns, Hollow's Mark was one of them. The other 2 no longer appear on any modern map. One of them is in Tennessee. One of them is in Kentucky. Same pattern, same year, same quiet erasure. Harlan was writing a 3rd letter in August of 1893. He never sent it. He died in a railroad accident outside Abilene. The letter was found in his belongings, half finished. The last line reads, "There are doors under every old county seat. Someone has the list."
Elias Crowne retired in November of 1893. The night before his last shift, he went down the iron staircase one more time. He stood at the second door. He listened. The thrum was still there, but it was lower now, almost gentle, almost as if it knew he was leaving. He marked the stone beside the doorframe with the date, November 4, his initials, E.C. He would be the last person to touch that stone for 86 years. When Elias died in 1907, his journal was kept by his daughter. His great-granddaughter donated it, along with the drawing from memory, to a small university archive in 1972. The archivist who processed the collection noted in a margin of the accession log that the drawing showed a feature not consistent with any known structure on the surveyed site. She flagged it for the Historical Society. Nothing happened. The flag disappeared from the accession log in 1981. The archivist had retired. The new archivist could not find the page. Sound familiar? And it wasn't just Maren Hollow. In 1953, a courthouse in southern Ohio was demolished to make way for a federal post office. During excavation, workers uncovered a granite arch 2 feet beneath the basement floor. It led to a chambered corridor that ran northeast, under the street, under the next block, under the river. The corridor was filled in within 72 hours. The crews were flown in. They were not local. The site was declared a buried utility easement. The utility company had no record of it. In 1978, a county clerk in eastern Kentucky found in a locked filing cabinet marked "Do Not Open Without Supervisor" a stack of handwritten notes from the 1880s describing a subterranean anomaly beneath a building then used as a militia armory. The building was demolished in 1981. The notes were transferred to the state archive. They were declassified in 1996. By the time the public could read them, the building they described was a parking lot. In every case, the same pattern: a building, an older structure beneath it, a sealed access, a quiet disappearance of the record, and a maintenance project that gives officials a reason to bury the evidence legally and on schedule. The institutions aren't hiding anything in the old cloak and dagger sense. They're just archiving it out of existence, filing the truth into a drawer that gets refiled into a room, that gets rekeyed into a vault, that eventually gets renamed. A drawing from memory is harder to rename.
If you step back and look at the pattern, the implication is enormous. Somewhere in the first decades of the 1800s, before the wave of American settlement we were taught to think of as the founding of everything, there were communities already here. Not native camps, not trail markers. Communities with architecture heavy enough to require granite arches and hand-hewn chambered corridors. Communities with enough continuity to install doors, locks, thresholds, second floors. Communities that were not destroyed, they were absorbed, they were built under. And the longer you stare at it, the more unsettling the geometry becomes. Maren Hollow, southern Ohio, eastern Kentucky. Each one separated by roughly 80 to 100 miles. Each one built on an original 1803 dissolution site. Each one connected in the notes and the drawings and the surviving letters by a name that is no longer printed on any map: Hollow's Mark. 3 towns dissolved in 1 year. 3 counties built on top of what was dissolved. 3 sealed doors. 3 erased names. 3 archival disappearances separated by almost a century, but mechanically identical. Which raises the question nobody wants to ask out loud. What if these weren't accidents? What if there was an organized, methodical effort stretching from 1803 to at least 1981 to place the visible machinery of American county life directly on top of something older? What if every courthouse, every jail, every post office, every militia armory we still walk into is sitting on a roof? And if that is true, then the second door under that Tennessee jail in 1893 was not a curiosity, it was an indicator. And Elias Crowne, a 61-year-old guard with 3 weeks of service left, was the last person alive who could have opened it. He didn't. He couldn't. The lead had been poured before he was born. But he did the next most important thing. He drew it, exactly as he remembered, with measurements, in a kitchen, under a lamp. That drawing still exists. It is kept in a university archive in Tennessee, accession number 1972-0884-C. It is labeled in official catalog language, floor plan anomaly, unauthenticated, undated. It is not a famous drawing. It is not in a museum. It has never been reproduced in a textbook. If you wanted to find it, you would have to drive to a small university library, fill out a paper request, and wait 3 business days. The archivist who handles it is the third one since the original was flagged. He does not know it was flagged. Which means, in a very real sense, the record is in the same place it was in 1893, hidden, below the floor, waiting to be walked over. Elias Crowne believed the truth was not in the building, it was in the people who refused to forget it. He believed the most dangerous thing an institution can do is not silence a witness, it is to outlive him. And he knew the night he drew that floor plan from memory that he was making himself a witness who could not be outlived. The drawing cannot retire. The drawing cannot die in a railroad accident. The drawing cannot be refiled. You are looking at the future of a county jail right now. There will come a day, maybe 20 years from now, maybe 200, when someone digs beneath one of these old buildings and finds exactly what Elias Crowne walked over for 19 years. And on that day, the only thing standing between the discovery and the disappearance will be the people who already know. That is the audience this channel is for. If that is you, stay close. There are more drawings coming.